Hey guys, how you doing today? My name is Jared and I'm here to review the Tyranid Codex for Warhammer 40k. Now, I'm a Tyranid player through and through to my very core. I love Tyranids, have since I think 3rd edition is what it was. I still have that old codex, and even though they got just mulched a bit by autocannons and assault cannons, it was what it was. I just love those little bugs. But here's the new codex. It's very beautiful, as you can see. Great cover. All the new codexes have been looking great. My friend's Space Marine, or Chaos Space Marines codex, his Chaos Demons codex. I love those. They both look beautiful, great inside and out. This one is no exception. A lot of good color, even on these random couple opening pages, and then a lot of good artwork strewn throughout, as you can see. Just a lot of good artwork throughout the entire thing. The fluff is a little different. Like I said, I'm a Tyranids player through and through, and have been for ages now, it seems. One of the beginning things in the fluff is the death of Tyran and how Inquisitor Cryptman finds the data codex that was left in the original codex, and even in the 5th edition codex, which I have sitting right here. The little data codex about the Tyranid invasion of Tyran was shot down into like the core of the planet or the core of the facility or something like that. In this one, the author changed it up to being shot into space, into orbit or whatever. Kind of wonder why it didn't it just shot into space and then lost in space. It seems to make more sense if you would have put it into the core of the planet. But hey, creative license, little things like that. I guess can't really worry too much. There's this cool thing about the phases of Tyranid invasion of a world, and that's pretty cool. It goes through all their stuff. Like I said, the fluff looks really nice. You've even put into it some more color, some more little bits. These nice timelines of the Tyranid invasions and the Hive fleets, and that goes for each of them, including the 2nd Tyrannic War and the 3rd, which we're currently in, the Leviathan, and of course my Hive Fleet Chimera, which, interestingly enough, there's a mention of a Hive Fleet Chimera in this book, and I thought that was really neat. Even though I looked through the whole 5th edition codex and I looked online, and I didn't see any mention of any Hive Fleet Chimera anywhere, and so I was like, that sounds really cool. I think I'm going to use that for my own Hive Fleet's name, and now it's in the 6th edition codex. Serendipity, perhaps. Must have been fate. Hive Fleet Chimera was coming. Well, like I said, the codex just continues to be absolutely beautiful through and through. And while that's all great, and while a nice looking book is great, I'm sure that mostly you are here to hear about what the changes are. What changed in this codex and how the Tyranids may have improved or gotten worse. So let's start on that. I took some notes here as I went through both codexes side to side, or side by side. First off, there's the new Warlord traits table, and every new codex has a Warlord traits table, and ours is no different. The Warlord traits table is right here on page 38, and it is right next to our new Instinctive behavior tables. But the Warlord traits table, in pretty much every other codex I've seen, everybody says they're going to choose the Warlord traits from their codex. Space Marines, Eldar, the Tau, all of them are saying, hey, I'm going to choose the Warlord traits from my codex because, I have a much better chance of getting something that rocks for my army. Ours is different. Ours is crap. Entirely crap. There's only really one good option, and that is the adaptive biology, which you need to roll a 6 for on the table. And what it is, the fluff reads, this warlord has been created to adapt against the weaponry used by the current prey world's defenders. If the warlord, and this is the rules, if the warlord suffers one or more unsaved wounds It gains the Feel No Pain special rule at the beginning of its next movement phase and keeps it for the remainder of the game. That's pretty cool. You could take a Turbigon or Hive Tyrant and have some Tyrant Guard with it or something like that, and it suffers an unsaved wound. They're pretty tough creatures, all of them. So all these monsters creatures are pretty tough. So it could suffer an unsaved wound and still survive, and that's pretty sweet. Because then after that, it would get Feel No Pain, giving it an extra save after any armor or cover saves, or like it's flying Hive Tyrant, a Jinx save. So an extra save, especially with Feel No Pain, because it's kind of like an invulnerable, except for versus insta-kills. Feel No Pain is an awesome save to have. So while that's awesome, let's look at some of these other ones. Nature's Bane. Turn a forest, jungle, or wood terrain piece within 12 inches of your Warlord into carnivorous jungle. And it remains that way for the rest of the game. Heightened Senses. All friendly Tyranids within 12 inches of your Warlord have night vision special. That's cool, since night fighting seems to be more common these days, except for the fact that Tyranids barely ever shoot more than 16 inches, or 18 inches in this case. Synaptic Linchpin. The Warlord's synapse range is 18 inches. That's pretty cool, but you can also take Dominion as a psychic power and do that on your turn as a psychic power, or you can just take the Swarmlord who has that anyway, and that's his Warlord trait. We'll get to that later. 4. Mind Eater. Your army gains 2 victory points for each enemy model with the independent character special rule slain by your Warlord in a challenge. That's freaking retarded. You have to tell your opponent what Warlord trait you got. You roll that one, he's going to say, cool, I'm never going to accept a challenge from your Warlord. Hello? How about slain at all? Because it actually goes on and saying killing an independent character as a result of a sweeping advance does not award these victory points. So, and it doesn't say slain in any other fashion, it just says slain in a challenge. So, that sucks. I mean, don't get me wrong, getting 2 victory points for killing an independent character with your Warlord would be sweet. Sweet. Swarmlord all day, right? Except for the fact that it doesn't count unless they accept your challenge, which they know which trait you have, and they're not going to accept any challenges. All of my friends have already stopped accepting challenges from the Swarmlord because he just chews them up and spits them out. Digestive Denial. This is number 5 on the list, so we're pretty much done after this. After deployment, but before scouts, redeployments, and infiltrate deployments, nominate 1 piece of terrain in the enemy deployment zone. This terrain piece's cover save is reduced by 1 for the duration of the game, to a minimum of 6+. Note that a piece of terrain can only be affected by this ability once, and that sounds really cool. Take that Aegis defense line from a 3+ to a 4+, except for it says right in the rule, this may not be one of the terrain pieces your opponent has purchased as a part of their army. So right there, Aegis defense lines are still going to be, rocking it all day long, saying, hey, look at our 3+, aren't we sweet, in our 3+ turtle shell. So Warlord traits table, not very cool. It's crap. Everybody else has all these pretty sweet extra rules. Tyranids got boned. The instinctive behavior tables. Kind of got boned on that too, because now we have a new instinctive behavior table. Not only do we have Lurk and Feed, but we have Hunt now. And not only that, but when you fail an instinctive behavior test, and you have to roll on this table, you don't get the special thing. Like, it used to be that Feed organisms would get Rage as a special ability when they were outside of instinctive behavior. So they didn't have to roll on a table or anything like that. They just, when they failed an instinctive behavior test, they got Rage, and they started charging the nearest thing. Well, now, they only get Rage on a roll of a 6 on this table. And of course, that's only for the turn. If you roll a 1 to 3 on the table for a Feed organism, your unit starts eating itself. Thanks, Games Workshop. Like Tyranids didn't have enough problems already. So, instinctive behavior, Lurk and Hunt, no matter what you do, you cannot run and you cannot charge. So, with Lurk and Hunt, you just shoot at whatever's closest. That's it. And one cool thing is that lurking creatures now get stealth on a roll of 6, but again, it's on a roll of 6. The hunt guys get preferred enemy on a roll of 6, so that's kind of neat, but there's not really very many hunt instinctive behavior creatures, and not many that are worthwhile. So let's go on to some of the other points I had that kind of sucked. So lictors are lurk creatures, which I said again they can't charge at all, and that kind of makes sense because of the fluff of a lictor. You know, they lurk around, they wait for days until maybe they, you know, see an opponent, and then they charge in, kill like a couple small guys, and then they hide again. You know, hide in the shadows again, basically. And that would make real good sense that they are lurk creatures, except for the fact that they are melee specialists. Their ballistic skill is a 3, their weapon skill is like a 6. So you're basically taking your great melee characters, and if they get out of synapse range, which, let's see, they deep strike and they infiltrate now, they're going to be out of synapse range like from the get-go. So they're just going to be sitting there shooting barbed, you know, chest hooks or whatever. Please. Please. Because that's just, ooh, yay, flesh hooks. 2 shots. That Space Marines are just going to save against. Not fun. So let's go on to the weapons and biomorphs now, because that's like the next section of the codex, and we got a little bit of loving in this area on the weapons and biomorphs tables. So Rending Claws got slightly better. Rending Claws, when they are equipped, are always AP 5, plus they still have Rending. So in that aspect, Rending Claws got a little bit better. Now all of our, it used to be you just had like your melee weapons, Scything Talons or whatever, and they were just blah. You had no AP value in close combat, unless your thing was a monstrous creature. But now you have some AP value, like even Scything Talons have an AP of 6. So against, I don't know, some little orcs or maybe some little Imperial Guard or something like that, you might have, you know, they might not get armor saves in close combat. The Bone Sword got boned. While it is now AP 3, making it so Space Marines won't get saves against it, armor saves against it in close combat, so you can equip some warriors with some Bone Swords and start going to town. They no longer have the leadership test, where anytime a model suffers an unsaved wound from a Bone Sword, they have to take a leadership test. So it used to be, let's look it up in 5th edition. With Bone Swords, no armor saves may be taken against wounds inflicted in close combat by a Tyranid with a Bone Sword. That's pretty cool, because the old one, no armor saves can be taken, so even against Terminators, Terminators weren't getting their 2+ armor save. That's pretty sweet. And if they suffered 1 or more unsaved wounds in close combat from a Bone Sword, they must immediately pass a leadership test or suffer instant death. So against models with, you know, extra wounds, like characters or something, so you could take some warriors and maybe go and take out some cool hooty Space Marine character, because he can't get armor saves, he just gets his little invulnerable save of 5+ or something. And then if they have 2 Bone Swords, that leadership test has to be taken on 3d6 instead of 2d6. Well, now it's just AP 3, so Terminators will be eating up those Bone Sword wielding warriors all day long, no problem, especially since they're Bone Sword wielding, and so they're going to be shooting them down before they ever get to them anyway, like is normal for warriors. The life drain on it, too, it's no longer make a leadership test or instantly die. It's on a 2 wound roll of 6, the weapon has instant death rule. So that's kind of neat, but it's also not any wound has possibility of being instant death, only a wound of a 6, wound roll of a 6. So, whereas your High Tyrant, you know, had a strength of 6, so it was running around wounding everybody with its bone swords. Now it's not causing instant death, possible instant death on anything in sight. Now it's, you know, only on a roll of 6, and even your Hive Tyrant, well, luckily it's a monstrous creature, so it's going to have AP 2 anyways, but, you know, that's just armor saves out the wazoo are going to still be made against anything with better than 8 armor value of 3. So bone swords kind of got boned in a way. Crushing claws are a little bit better. They have +1 strength now and are armor bane. So they also are still unwieldy, giving them making your initiative value drop to 1. But armor bane is really cool for the crushing claws, because now you can take like a Turbogon with crushing claws and run it against some tanks and do its smash attack, and you have super duper chance of that with, you know, smashing at strength 10 of getting a penetrating hit and then hopefully making the tank explode, because armor bane gives you 2d6 on the armor penetration roll, so that's pretty awesome. The Impaler Cannon on your Hive Guard got a little bit better. They are now homing and ignore cover. So it used to be that you only didn't need line of sight, but then your enemy would get cover saves. So if you're shooting at someone behind, again, an Aegis defense line or in ruins with a 4+ save, they still get that 4+ cover save. And that was really annoying. I didn't really use Hive Guard too much because I'm just now collecting some Hive Guard models. But I actually have a whole new box of 3 brand new Hive Guards, and I cannot wait to put them together, all with Impaler Cannons. So I can be homing and impaling the crap out of everybody in sight. So Hive Guard got definitely a boost with their Impaler Cannon weapon. They have a new weapon called a Shock Cannon, and it's not really as good in my opinion. It's just, let's see, the Shock Cannon is range 18 inches, so it's shorter range. Strength 5, AP 5, Assault 1, Blast, and Haywire. I'd rather take the Impaler Cannon at Strength 8, AP 4, Assault 2, Homing. So, yeah. And that I don't need line of sight with, and that I can ignore cover with. So, people are going to be, you know, sucking on some Impaler Cannon, that's for sure. Spore Mines are a little bit better if you shoot a barrage with your Biovores and you miss, and it scatters off and it misses, and you usually put just 1 Spore Mine down. Now you put D3 Spore Mines down. So that's pretty neat. That's what the Spore Mine rule reads. So Spore Mines got a little bit better in that aspect, because now you're going to drop possibly up to 3 Spore Mines at a time instead of just 1 for each Biovore. So you have a unit of 3 Biovores shooting and they scatter, you could drop 9 Spore Mines out on the battlefield. And while Spore Mines aren't necessarily a huge threat, it's still something people got to watch out for, because now they start moving around the battlefield, they block off a whole line of, a whole avenue of approach that your enemies might have wanted to use. So that's pretty cool. I like Spore Mines, I'm a big fan, and I can't wait to drop them on a bunch of unsuspecting Tau. Looking at you, Zach. The Biomorph Upgrades. Biomorph Upgrades got some bonuses and some you know, some of them got worse, basically. So Adrenal Glands got a little bit better because now they grant Fleet as well as Furious Charge. It used to be just Furious Charge. So we all know the benefits of Fleet, and now you can give that to your Termagants, and so now they can have move through cover and Fleet on your Termagants as well, if you're a Termagant lover and you like to move them up. I personally don't usually purchase Adrenal Glands. They're not really worth it in my opinion. Regeneration sort of got better. It's a little bit more expensive. It used to be about 25 points, used to be 25 points, and now it's 30 points, just flat across the board, because I know there was a couple models in the 5th edition there it cost 30 points for instead of the 25. So it was, the price was weird. It was dependent on the model. Now it's just straight for the Biomorphs. All of them are the same price. And regeneration, like I said, costs 30 points now. It used to be that you would only regenerate a wound on a roll of 6, but you got to roll for every missing wound. So like if you had a Turbigon or a Trigon with regeneration, you know, they have 6 wounds, they're missing 5 wounds, you get to roll 5 dice to try to get back some wounds and try to get some 6s to get back those wounds. And that was pretty cool. I mean, imagine if you rolled 5 6s, your opponent would absolutely hate you. He almost killed that really tough monstrous creature, you know, and now it's back to full health. But now it's only 1 wound per turn. And it's on a 4+, which is kind of better because I don't know about you guys, but I didn't roll a lot of 6s on my regeneration very often. So now it's going to be more likely you'll get a wound back, but only one wound per turn. So I kind of like that. I think it'll be more reliable. I know it'll be more reliable than it used to be. So that's cool. The tail biomorphs for monstrous creatures are pretty neat. They're pretty nifty. I'm not really sure how useful they're going to be. The tail biomorphs, they have a little subset box here on page 67, right here. I don't know if you can see that awesomely. But they have a set strength assigned to each different type of tail biomorph, a set AP assigned to it as well, and some special rules for them. And only certain models can take certain tail biomorphs. So like the Carnifex gets the Thresher Scythe and the Bone Mace. The Bone Mace is a strength 8, no AP, melee unwieldy weapon. What's kind of cool is that the tail biomorph gives you 1 extra attack in close combat. It's not affected by any other weapons or biomorphs or upgrades or anything else. It's like its own separate model attack almost. And you do not gain an additional attack for fighting with 2 close combat weapons, so you don't get like the extra attack for this plus like an extra attack for it being a second weapon. It's just that 1 extra attack. So kind of like they have that written in there like that, but it also kind of is giving you an extra attack for fighting with 2 weapons, which is something to note real quick. It used to be that the creatures all had their attack profile, and then they had their weapon or the biomorph listed, so or what weapons they had. Like the Trigon had 2 scything talons, or 2 sets of scything talons. So the Trigon now is actually showing that it has attacks of 5 instead of 6, but that's because that counts only for 1 set of scything talons. So when you take the second set of scything talons on it, which it comes standard with, that gives you an extra attack. It's like fighting with 2 weapons, like a bolt pistol and a chainsword for the Space Marines and stuff, or a Commissar or something. So that's how they're looking. So like the Carnifex, you'll notice if you are a Tyranid player, or if you're just someone looking through the book, and you notice these things, the Carnifex has 1 less attack than normal. The Trigon has 1 less attack than normal. So some critters in the book all have 1 attack less than normal, but you need to take into account that they have 2 pairs of weapons, which will make them the old attack characteristic of 4 for a Carnifex or 6 for a Trigon. But that also means that whereas an old Carnifex would have 4 attacks base with 2 sets of scything talons, but he would still have 4 attacks even if you equipped him with Crushing Claws and a Heavy Venom Cannon. Well, now if you equip him with a Heavy Venom Cannon, then he's only going to have 3 attacks because he's going to have 1 less set of melee weapons. So, and you can also make up for that though by giving him a tail augmentation. Let's get to some of the other stuff here. So biomorphs are cool. Now we have bio-artifacts, which is basically specialized war gear for Tyranids, and it's just like it says, they're artifacts, so you can only have 1 per army. But some of them are really cool. They're a really neat concept, and the 2 that I really like is the Reaper of Obliterax, which is a specialized bone sword. Gives you +1 strength and AP 3. It gives you that life drain, which is the same as the bone sword is now, a to wound roll of 6, is instant death. And it also gives you Swift Strike, which is +3 bonus to your initiative during the fight subphase, which is exactly what the Lash Whips do now. The Lash Whips used to be that they would drop everybody in base contact with you to initiative step 1, but now Lash Whips just give you +3 to your initiative. So that's kind of neat. I think it would pretty much even out either way, unless you're fighting a Demon Prince. Also, the Norn Crown is kind of neat. It extends your that model's range, synapse range, by 6 inches. So, like, you give a Norn Crown to maybe a Tyranid Prime, and now he's a huge synapse beacon out in the middle of the battlefield. There's also a huge beacon for Bolter Fighter. The Psychic powers, they mostly got watered down. Psychic Scream got pretty, is a new one, and it's pretty cool, but not as awesome as some of the psychic powers I saw in some of the other books, like looking at you, Chaos. But Psychic Scream is a Nova power with a range of 6 inches, and for each target unit, roll 2d6 +2 and subtract their leadership. The unit suffers a number of wounds equal to the result. Armor and cover saves cannot be taken against wounds caused by Psychic Scream. That's really sweet because you take that power and roll right up into close combat with a bunch of Terminators or something and just start killing them with their no wound or their no armor saves. So that's pretty sweet. But other than that, number 6 on our list is Warp Blast, and it's the Zoanthrope power where it does a small blast, or it does the lance attack, and you can choose either option for that. But all the other ones are pretty much watered down versions of the old powers. They're not really all that great. Paroxysm might be really useful depending on the situation you're in. It's a malediction within 24 inches that lowers weapon skill and ballistic skill by D3. You roll once and it affects both weapon skill and ballistic skill. I could see that really working well against Tau. You drop their ballistic skill down to like 2 or 1 or something like that, or even Space Marines. It might be really useful for those situations, but we don't have a lot of really offensive ones, and we no longer have Life Leech, so you can't have a Hive Tyrant that takes some wounds, has regeneration, and starts leeching life from people. It just kind of killed some of the combos there. Some big bummers. There were some rumors that Hormagaunts were going to become beasts in this edition, but they did not. The fluff always says that they're really fast, they're bounding and leaping over everything, and they just move through the battlefield super duper fast. And last edition and 5th edition, they really weren't. They kind of sucked. Fleet helped a little bit, but they're still only moving as fast as a Space Marine. So they didn't get turned into beasts, which would have been awesome. Talk about a serious threat on the table. But instead, they did give them a Bounding Leap special rule, kind of like what they had back in 3rd edition. But this gives them an extra 3 inches on a run move. Since they don't have shooting weapons, they're always going to run. So that's it's pretty good. I will definitely take an extra 3 inches on a run. It basically makes it so that you can move 6 inches, and then you're always going to move a minimum of 10 inches in a turn, as long as you don't have to charge, because obviously you can't run and charge. It's not bad. I'll take it. Some other bummers. There's no Skyfire in the entire Codex. No Skyfire whatsoever. I was hoping that the Hive Guard would have gotten Skyfire. There was some rumors about Skyfire for the Hive Guard, but that's just not the case. There is a new flyer that grapples with other flyers, and I guess flyers can shoot at other flyers in normal. But there's no Skyfire. There's no Skyfire whatsoever. That new flyer actually has some missiles too, and those are pretty cool. Its missiles are neat, but it's really expensive. Monstrous creature and I'm not really sure if I'm going to use it. We'll see how that goes eventually. Yeah, the Hive Crone is the flyer that I'm talking about. It's really the only anti-air guy you have in the entire codex. Regen got more expensive, that's kind of a bummer. Also, AP. Tyranids are seriously lacking in armor penetration. The only AP 3 or better weapons are on big bugs or in melee. And of course that's with big bugs in melee. And there's only 2 AP 2 ranged weapons. And those are still the Carnifexes and not even the Carnifexes, that giant strength 10 rupture cannon that the Carnifex has is AP 4. The only 2 AP 2 ranged weapons is the plasma. It's on one of the new big bugs. Bioplasma Cannon, or Bioplasma, which you can upgrade a Carnifex to get Bioplasma for a 12-inch range, strength 7 AP 2 shot. Or the Bioplasma Cannon, which is a 24-inch range, strength 7 AP 2. You can get the Bioplasma Cannon, can do a large blast, or a stream, which is assault 6. So kind of a bummer there on any AP, but what did I expect? I'm playing Tyranids, I'm supposed to get into melee and then hopefully kill them by sheer numbers. Swarmlord is now Mastery 3 instead of Mastery 4, or at least he's Mastery 3 instead of having 4 psychic powers. So 1 less psychic power, and he's also a little bit more expensive. And I have a huge beef to throw down with that, because for 285 freaking points, Eldar can buy a Wraith Knight and upgrade that bastard with some extra goodies. So my Swarmlord, who's slogging through the freaking terrain, slogging down the board, getting shot at left and right because he's the monstrous, horrible Swarmlord, he's going to get blown up by a guy that costs less points than him, by a squad of Devastator Marines or something like that. Horrible. Meanwhile, that Wraith Knight gets shot at by Devastator Marines, and he looks at them and obliterates them with all his heavy weaponry that he has on him. Did I mention the Wraith Knight also has 4 more strength than a Swarmlord, and 2 more toughness? Oh, and it's jump infantry, moves farther. So the Eldar have this super awesome 240 point giant robot thing that obliterates everything in sight, and we have this Swarmlord that is only nasty in close combat and doesn't move very far. He's not even very fast to get into close combat, and he costs more points. Tell me how that works. Tell me how that works. 285 points versus 240 with no shooting. I guess he can maybe take a psychic power that gives him a shot. He can take Warp Blast and start trying to blast people at a distance with Warp Blast. That's about your only option. The Tervigon is a base 35 points more. Yep, 195 points for a Tervigon, which I know a lot of non-Tyranid players are going to be very thankful for, because those Termagants were just annoying. It was annoying to shoot them all day. It was annoying to kill hordes and hordes of Termagants all day, wasn't it? Because that's what happens every time I have a Tervigon, or 2 Tervigons even. They spawn Termagants, and they spawn out, and they die. They spawn out, and they die. They basically just soaking up bullets for like 2 turns. Hopefully soaking up enough bullets that some of my other guys can maneuver and get up there. Except for the fact that most Tyranids are not very fast and have a really tough time closing in close combat, which is the only place we're really good. Also, Tervigon, to take a Tervigon as a troop choice, you used to need only 10 Termagants. A brood of 10 Termagants would equal 1 Tervigon as a troop's choice. Now you need to take a brood of 30 Termagants to take a Tervigon as troop's choice. So you need more models, more points overall to take Tervigons in any way, as an HQ choice or as a troop's choice. Anyway, they cost more points now. A Tyranid Prime, which wasn't a great model to begin with, it's kind of neat. It's a cool idea, I guess. But it used to cost 80 points. It now costs 125 points total. It's 45 points more. It's more than half of its original cost more in cost. For what? 1 extra strength and toughness? A little bit extra ballistic skill? Does all that equate to being 4 times the cost of a Tyranid warrior? I don't know. 125 points. Half the price of a Wraith Knight. I do not think 2 Tyranid Primes could take out a Wraith Knight. Unless they got really, really, really lucky. Death Leaper is no longer an elite. He's now an HQ. He's a little less expensive, which is kind of cool, and he has this special rule which makes it so that even when he's right next to opponents, they can only take snapshots. So it used to be that he just had a really good cover save out in the open, but now it's they can only take snapshots, and he still has kind of good cover save in the open. The Hive Guard are 5 points more expensive, but they're a little better. I'm cool with that. Lictors got 10 points cheaper. Awesome. They're 50 points now, so they can also infiltrate or deep strike. It used to be they just did a deep strike somewhere on the board, but now you can have them on the board on turn 1, maybe with some Gene Stealers or something like that, and have them be a big threat by turn 2, hopefully. Zoanthropes got 10 points cheaper as well. Very happy about Lictors and Zoanthropes being cheaper. Very, very happy. They just, Zoanthropes are going to be a staple powerhouse of a Tyranid force, and at least they better be, in my opinion. You need at least 2 on the table. They extend synapse range. They have those warp blasts to take out troops. They have the lance to try to take out tanks. Now they are a brotherhood of psychers, which is pretty cool. So if you only do 1 psychic power test, and if you get a Perils of the Warp, they only take 1 wound. So it's not like you get 3 Zoanthropes and a Brood, and all of a sudden they all take 3 wounds and they're half dead and stuff like that. And their invulnerable save is obviously, it's one of the best in the game. It's a 3+ invulnerable save. That's pretty awesome. It does still suck that they're still toughness 4. They can be insta-killed if someone gets through with a crack missile or something on through their warp shield with that. They're dead right away. One of the bummers about Zoanthropes, and all Tyranid players everywhere are going to be crying in their sleep tonight. There's no Doom of Melanti anymore. There's no Doom whatsoever. So there's a collective sigh of relief from all non-Tyranid players, because the Doom of Melanti was one of their worst nightmares. At least it was for other people. My Doom always died, like, first turn. So Shadow in the Warp is not as good anymore, or possibly not as good. Now what it does, instead of making you have to take psychic tests on 3d6, now it just lowers your leadership value by 3. The average 2d6 roll is going to be a 7, so most psychers have a leadership of 10. They're going to still pass most of the time, but there's going to be that few times, or maybe you have a buddy who's always rolls obscenely high, and leadership tests for him just are going to suck when he goes to take psychic tests. Tyranids still have no Torrent. There's no Flamers. The Pyrohore did not get Torrent. It still is a crappy model. And Yumgirl Gene Stealers got taken out. But they added in the Yumgirl effect, which is like a biomorph upgrade or something for 1 model in your army. Can take the Yumgirl effect, which allows it to do the same thing that Yumgirl Gene Stealers did before. But there's no Yumgirl Gene Stealers. They got taken out. Them and the Doom. Big, big hit there. One of the things I'm most happy about is the Carnifex. Carnifexes are way cheaper. Thank goodness. Carnifexes were just not being used very often. For what they are, they were way too expensive. They were 160 points before, and now they're 120. So 2 Carnifexes is now the equivalent price of a Wraith Knight. We'll keep using that example because I'm still really pissed that Tyranids have no toughness 8 creature. Or even a toughness 7 creature. Come on, throw us a freaking bone here. But you can take 3 Carnifexes now for the price, or 4 Carnifexes now for the price of 3 previously. So you can get 1 extra Carnifex in there. You can take 2 broods of 2 and be running around in different areas and taking out, hopefully taking out Wraith Knights, because they do have the strength to take out a Wraith Knight. You know, they can actually wound a Wraith Knight on a roll 3 up versus most everybody else having to wound him on, you know, a 6 up because he's got a toughness 8. Meanwhile, the Wraith Knight still wounds a Carnifex on a 2 up because he's strength 10 versus our toughness 6. Yeah, I'm going to keep harping on that because it's just the Wraith Knight is a cheeseball unit. It should never have been made. The Impaler Cannon and the Haruspex are probably, and the Carnifex are my 3 newest things that they've done. The Haruspex is my newest thing they did. The Impaler Cannon is the newest, or the best weapon upgrade I've seen. The Carnifex is probably the best change they made on the points. And of all things, they made Rippers better. It used to be no one took Rippers because as soon as they got out of Synapse range, they would die immediately. But now, they no longer have to be in Synapse range to operate. So Sky Slasher Swarms, we might start seeing a bunch of those. Ripper Swarms in general, might start seeing a bunch of those. They are swarms, have that cool swarm rule. They take, you know, they have 3 wounds. They could be a really good tar pit if you start using them that way. I think you're going to see a lot of Zoanthropes. I mean, you can field 6 Zoanthropes now for 300 points. Why the heck not? I probably will. You're going to see hordes and hordes and hordes of Zoanthropes and Carnifexes, and that is probably going to be one of the new things. Of course, I do a swarm army, so I always do a ton of Hormagaunts, and like I said, I'm super happy that now I can move a standard minimum 10 inches and possibly, you know, up to, 15 inches in a turn with my Hormagaunts. So that's farther than a Space Marine, thank goodness, because they were supposed to be fast before, and they weren't really. So overall, the new Tyranid new Tyranid Codex is great. I'm stuck on Carnifexes. I just love those guys. But the new Tyranid Codex is beautiful, and you know, it's a new codex. I'm going to deal with what I got dealt. To go over some of my main points for what was good in the codex, we have Carnifexes. Like I said, I'm stuck on Carnifexes. I love them. They're so much cheaper now. They're so much better overall because they're cheaper. They still only have a 3-up armor save, so Plasma is going to annihilate the crap out of them. But you know, that's why they're cheaper now. So you take 3 of them at a time. So when they annihilate 1 Carnifex with Plasma, the other 2 Carnifexes go up there and shoot their own Plasma at them and then rape them in close combat. That would be good. Lictors. They're cheaper. They can infiltrate now, and that's really good. So possibly a charge on turn 2, if you maneuver them right and if they survive that initial volley. Zoanthropes. Cheaper! And they're Brotherhood of Psykers now. Yes! That's pretty cool. Because now a Lance, you know, it's now Lance Assault 3, or the Blast is Blast Assault 3, so, or Assault 3 Blast. So you get 3 shots if you have 3 Zoanthropes in a brood, and they make 1 psychic test, and then all of them shoot at the same target and blast the heck out of it. That's pretty sweet. The Haruspex, it regens of wounds on a kill. So if it gets in close combat, I didn't really mention this earlier, but the Haruspex is one of the new big bugs. When it gets into close combat, it can eat enemies, and anybody it kills in close combat, it's considered to have eaten them, and at the start of its next turn, or at the end of the fight subphase, it regains any lost wound, or a lost wound for a model it killed. Only 1 wound per turn on that. So you can give that guy regeneration and then that, and he can be pretty nasty. He's a great new line breaker for like 160 points. So he's still too expensive in my opinion for what he is. Again, we got a Wraith Knight that shoots long distances, stomps around the battlefield super fast, and is strength 10, toughness 8, whereas this guy is, strength 6, toughness 6, 5 wounds, 160 points. For 60 points more, I'll take a Wraith Knight any day. Crushing Claws are pretty awesome. Again, they're Armor Bane, and they give you +1 strength. So you give Crushing Claws to a Carnifex, and now he's sitting at strength 10, and sort of matching up to a Wraith Knight. Plus Armor Bane, they can... Carnifexes, Tyranids should never have to fear super heavies in Apocalypse or the escalation fights because you have Carnifexes. Carnifexes, Carnifexes, Carnifexes! I love those guys. I'm going to be fielding all 5 of mine, and when I get a third, my 6th one, I'm going to be fielding 6 at a time. Can't wait. Just give them Crushing Claws, run those Carnifexes right up to that super heavy if you can reach it in time without getting shot to death. But with Armor Bane, you're gonna tear it apart. The Impaler Cannon got better, and Bio Artifacts are cool, and again, Hormagaunts move faster. They're still not beasts. So those are the main good points: the Carnifexes, Lictors, Zoanthropes, Horspecs, Crushing Claws, Impaler Cannon, and Bio Artifacts, as well as faster moving Hormagaunts. The main bad points. I have several bad points here. Swarmlord, points increase on a guy that is melee only. Games Workshop, what are you doing? There's no Doom of Melantai, because every good character that's in Tyranids Codex we like to take out. So that's the policy. Termagant points increase, and you now need 30 Termagants now to get a Termagant as a troops choice. Horrible Warlord traits, horrible Instinctive behavior changes. Bone Swords got boned. The Psychic Powers, there's no changes for the better. In fact, one of them got boned. It used to be that you could use Onslaught on your critters, and if they had Fleet, they could not only run in the run phase, but then charge in the assault phase. So you give that to some Hormagaunts, and they would be moving, running, and then charging. That's pretty awesome. But you can't do that anymore. There's no Skyfire whatsoever in the Codex. There's really very little anti-air, so if someone comes in with, I don't know, that flying turkey thing that Chaos likes to come in with, which, by the way, has Torrent, which we don't have either. But if they come in with the flying turkey, you just kind of look at it and go, well, I hope he doesn't kill all my guys. And the Shadow and the Warp, I'm not sure. I have to play a couple games with some people that play with Psychers and see if it got nerfed or not. That -3 leadership might even out to the extra D6. It might not. We'll see. And there's no Ymgarl. So they took out a lot of our good elite choices like the Doom, the Ymgarl, and they nerfed some guys, gave some points increases to others. The Swarmlord, come on. More expensive than a Wraith Knight? I don't think so. He should probably be... Let's make him equal with a Wraith Knight at least. Come on. Make him 220. Make him 240. Seriously, equal to a Wraith Knight. So overall, I'm a little disappointed in the Codex. Besides how it looks, it's, again, a beautiful book. But I was really hoping for some more increases to the Tyranid power to make them truly a competitive army. But it looks like that will probably still stay with the Eldar and Tau. I'll have to wait and see and play against some of my friends who play Eldar, Tau, and of course Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines. I'm really not looking forward to playing against my buddy's new Space Marine army he just got. He's got like 4 flyers in it, and I'm really not looking forward to that with no Skyfire. It's just, like I said, a little disappointed in the quality of changes that have gone into the army, and I don't really think it matches up to the quality of the changes that have happened in every other army so far in 6th edition. About the only thing I can say is I hope Necrons don't get boned as bad. So that's it, and I hope you get a kind of a good grasp on what the Tyranids are all about in 6th edition now, finally having their Codex, and Carnifexes, Carnifexes, Carnifexes.